Alright guys, I want to do the last three problems from our notes just so you would have the opportunity to listen to the instruction again. So I'm going to start with 5. So we'll do 5, 6, and 10. Those were the three that we did not choose to do in class. So remember, we have 3 steps when we want to solve by square roots. We want to make sure what's being squared is isolated. Then we want to take the square root of both sides. And the final step is whatever our answer is has to have a plus or minus in front of it. Sometimes that's the end, and sometimes we have to finish solving. It depends on your problem. So let's take a look at number 5. What is being squared is x squared. So that means the 10 needs to go away and the 4 needs to go away. We have to do a reverse order of operations. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides first. And we're left with 10x squared equals 180. And then to get the x squared term alone, we're going to divide. We're left with x squared equals 18. What's being squared is isolated, so then our next step is to take the square root of both sides. The square root cancels the 2 with the x, leaving just the x. And now the square root of 18. So I need to look, does 18 break down? That is 2 times 9, which is 3 times 3. I have a pair of 3's. That means a 3 can come to the outside, but this 2 does not have a pair. He's going to remain inside. And my final step, I need to write my answer with a plus and a minus. So this means my graph, if I was to put the equation into my calculator, we'll cross where at the positive 3 square root 2 and at negative 3 square root 2. So that means I'm going to have 2 real solutions. Alright, so each one is just a tiny bit different, and it really depends on the problem. So just go with solving first. That's the biggest part, is can you solve this solution, and then we got to take the square roots and break things down. So we're going to work with number 6. What is being squared is x squared. That means the 2/3 needs to go away. It is a fraction, so if I multiply by the reciprocal of that fraction, it's going to cancel and leave just my x squared. But if I'm going to multiply the left by 2/3, I got to be sure I multiply the right by 2/3, which will give me, that turns into, so that'd be 24 divided by 3, which is 8. So x squared equals 8. Alright, now, I have what's being squared isolated, so I'm going to square root both sides. It cancels that, leaving the x. 8, does 8 break down? So 8 is 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2. I have a pair of 2's and a 2 that's going to go back underneath the radical. So it's going to be plus square root 2 and minus 2 square root 2. So that is 2 real solutions. That means it crosses your x-axis twice when you actually graph it. Now I saved the best for last. Here's our, this is about as long as they get. 9 and 10 here. So what is actually being squared on these is x minus 3 squared. So that means everything else on that same side needs to go away. So the plus 3 needs to go away, and the 4, which is multiplying, needs to go away. We do reverse order of operations, which says add or subtract first. So I'm going to move the 3. I'm left with 4. X minus 3 squared equals negative 3. Alright. I'm still trying to get x minus 3 squared alone, so I'm going to divide by 4. And I get x minus 3 squared equals negative 3/4. I have what's being squared alone, so I'm going to take the square root at both sides. The square root cancels the 2, leaving the x minus 3. But when I get over here and I go to take the square root of negative 3/4, what's going to happen, well, let's take a look. So we're going to do the square root of -3 divided by 4, and I get that. It's an error. It's a non-real answer because you can't take the square root of a -3 in our Algebra 1 world. So that means this has no real solutions. We'll just end it there. There's nothing else we can do with it. Alright, so hopefully that helps you. These videos are great for just stopping and re-listening to whenever you're trying to work through a problem. Your homework was 1 through 6. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.